The gift. In the deep silence of space, the massive starship Vorax 7 hovered above a red planet. Inside its cold metal walls, Commander Zorvak waited. He stood tall with green-scaled skin and four glowing eyes. Today was a special day. He had ordered a rare creature, a pet like no other, something to show off his power to other alien leaders. The door opened with a hiss. A small group of armored guards entered the room, followed by a traitor, short, thin, and nervous-looking. Behind him walked a strange figure. The figure stood on two legs. No fur, no claws, no tail, just soft skin, messy black hair, and calm eyes. It looked around the room, silent. "A human?" Zorvak asked, confused. "You brought me a human." "Yes, Commander," the traitor bowed. "Very rare, from planet Earth, almost impossible to capture, but I got one." Zorvak walked around the human, examining him like an art piece. "This creature looks weak." The traitor smiled. "Do not be fooled, humans are strange, smart, dangerous if not handled right, but this one very quiet, calm, perfect for your collection." Zorvak looked into the human's eyes. They were not afraid. That bothered him. "What is your name, human?" he asked. The human spoke for the first time. "Eli." Simple voice, steady tone, no fear. Zorvak raised a brow. "Good, you belong to me now. You will eat when I say, sleep when I say, and obey every order, understood?" Eli nodded once, understood. The guards took Eli away. Zorvak turned to the traitor. "I hope you are not tricking me. I don't like surprises." "No tricks, Commander, just a gift, with potential." Hours later, Eli sat alone in a small glass room. No bed, no food, just bright lights and cold air. A small drone floated in, recording his movements. Eli stared at the drone and smiled slightly. Meanwhile, in the control room, Zorvak watched the screen. "He's doing nothing," one alien officer said. "Not eating, not talking, just sitting." "Maybe he is broken," another laughed. "No," Zorvak said. "He is thinking, watching, planning." The other officers laughed again. "He's a human, he can't even fly a ship." Zorvak stayed silent, eyes locked on the screen. Later that night, a guard entered Eli's room with food. As the guard placed the tray down, he muttered, "Stupid creature." Eli looked up. "What happens to other pets?" The guard paused. "Why do you ask?" Eli stared at him. "I like to know what happens when something disobeys." The guard smirked. "They get punished, sometimes they get eaten." Eli nodded slowly. "Interesting." As the guard turned to leave, Eli whispered something under his breath. The camera couldn't catch the words. Back in the commander's chamber, Zorvak poured himself a drink made from the glowing fruits of a jungle moon. One of his officers entered. "Commander, may I speak?" "Speak." I feel uneasy about this human. He watches everything, doesn't speak much, it's not normal." Zorvak sipped his drink. "Do you fear him?" The officer hesitated. "I don't know, but something about him feels wrong." Zorvak laughed. "Then maybe he is the perfect pet." Midnight, the ship was quiet. A janitor robot moved through the halls, cleaning. Suddenly it stopped. A shadow moved behind it. Camera feed flickered. In the guard's control room, one of the monitors turned black for 2 seconds. Just 2. When it returned, Eli was still in his room. Still sitting. Still smiling. Next morning, a guard did not report for duty. They searched his room, empty. The cameras showed him walking into the hall. Then nothing. Zorvak watched the footage. He frowned, checked the human's room. Guards entered Eli's room. He looked up calm. "Problem?" he asked. "Where were you last night?" a guard barked. "Right here," Eli replied. "Where else could I go?" Zorvak stared at him through the screen. Eli looked directly at the camera and smiled. Back in the control room, silence filled the air. Zorvak leaned forward. "Why is it smiling?" No one had an answer. Only the cold silence of space and the soft hum of a ship that had just welcomed something far more dangerous than a pet. Training the human. Commander Zorvak sat in his dark chamber, eyes fixed on the glowing screen. Eli the human sat quietly in his glass room. No panic, no questions, just watching, always watching. "Begin the obedience phase," Zorvak ordered. "The training begins." A team of bots entered Eli's room. One of them spoke in a robotic voice, "Stand, follow, sit." Eli stood. He followed. He sat. Perfectly. Too perfectly. From the control room, a young alien officer leaned forward. "He learns fast." "Fast is good," Zorvek said, but his voice lacked confidence. For the next 3 days, they tested Eli. He solved puzzles meant for high-level AI. He learned their language in hours. He could mimic alien voices. And when he was left alone, he didn't sleep. He just stared into the camera, studying. Whispers and warnings. In the cafeteria, 2 alien engineers spoke in hushed tones. "Have you seen the human? He gives me chills, like he's reading my thoughts." One of the guards said Eli fixed a power core with no tools. "That's not possible." "Then how is the engine running smoother now than before?" They fell silent. Across the room, Eli stood by a wall. He smiled. First contact. On day 5, Zorvek decided to speak with Eli directly. The commander entered the room alone. Eli stood in the center, hands behind his back. "You obey well," Zorvek said. "I learn well," Eli replied. "Do you fear me?" "No." "Why not?" Eli looked Zorvek in the eyes. "Because fear belongs to those who don't understand their cage." Zorvak's skin flickered with unease. "This is not a cage, it is training." Eli smiled. "For who?" "A disappearance." That night, another guard vanished. No trace, no sound, just gone. The camera feeds showed nothing. Except one thing. At exactly 03:17 ship time, Eli turned his head toward the hallway wall. And smiled. "A new test." Zorvak ordered a new experiment. "We will test his pain limit." They strapped Eli to a neural chair, a device that sent sharp signals to the brain. It had made strong alien soldiers cry. They turned it on. Eli didn't scream. He laughed. "Is that all?" he asked. The officer running the test dropped the controls. Zorvek barked, "Enough, unstrap him." As the bots released him, Eli whispered, "You wanted to break a human." He leaned close to the nearest guard. "But you're the ones cracking." Glitches and ghosts. Systems began to fail across the ship. Doors opened by themselves. Cameras showed movement where no one was. A message flashed on a broken screen. "Hello." Tech teams scrambled. "It's not a virus, it's human code, Earth code." Zorvak stared at the blinking screen. "Has he hacked our ship?" One final warning. Zorvak returned to Eli's chamber. "I gave you food, I gave you shelter. What more do you want?" Eli walked slowly toward the glass wall. "I want one thing, Commander." "And what's that?" Eli leaned close. "To see what you do when the cage opens from the inside." The escape attempt. The hum of the ship's engines echoed in the darkened hallways, but inside Eli's glass chamber there was silence. For the first time in days, Zorvek felt uncertain. His prize, the human Eli, was far more than he had bargained for. This creature, this pet, was behaving in ways he couldn't predict. Why was Eli so calm? Why wasn't he trying to escape? A new kind of intelligence. Zorvek called a meeting in the war room, summoning his top officers and scientists. "We've made a mistake," Zorvek growled, staring at the map of the ship displayed on the wall. "This human is not weak, he's not stupid, he's playing us." A technician quickly spoke up. "Commander, it's worse than we thought. There are signs of tampering." "What do you mean, tampering?" Zorvek demanded. The technician hesitated, his voice low. "He's been in the main systems, not just observing but modifying things." "Impossible," another officer shouted. "No human has ever been able to access our technology." Zorvak's eyes narrowed. "He's done it, he's outsmarted us." The night shift. Later that night, Eli was left alone in his room once again. His eyes never left the camera. He hadn't eaten or slept for hours. Instead, he had been quietly studying the ship's layout, the guards' patterns, and even the quiet hum of the systems. When the clock hit 02:13 ship time, something changed. The lights flickered. The ship systems went quiet for a brief second, just enough to send a cold shiver down the spines of the crew. The vanishing. A sudden shriek echoed through the corridors. A guard was gone, vanished. Zorvac rushed to the control room. The technicians were scrambling to bring up the footage, but the screens were static. The camera had cut out again. There should have been a signal, Zorvac snapped. No system glitches. Another officer typed frantically on a keyboard. Commander, the ship's security system has been completely bypassed. The human did this, somehow. The technician looked terrified. We've lost all visual on him. Zorvac clenched his fists. Find him now. The stare. Back in his glass chamber, Eli wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was simply sitting, his eyes fixed on the camera once more. Zorvac appeared on the screen, face tight with frustration. You think you've won? Zorvac sneered. But I'll find you, you can't hide forever. Eli smiled. I'm not hiding, I'm waiting. A dangerous game. The security team, now on high alert, scoured the ship. They found nothing. No sign of Eli, no trace of where he had gone. They checked the air vents, the power cores, the lower levels, but he was nowhere. Zorvac, now visibly annoyed, paced in the control room. This isn't possible. A human can't just disappear. But then the alarm started. A door on the far side of the ship opened. No command, no signal, it simply opened. The crew rushed to the location. The door led to a cargo hold. It was empty. A quiet victory. Back in his room, Eli still hadn't moved. He stood up and walked to the edge of the glass wall, his reflection staring back at him. The ship was in chaos, but Eli remained calm. He was like a predator who had found its prey and waited patiently for the perfect moment to strike. He turned and looked at the console next to him. Eli tapped a few buttons, simple, slow movements, but when he did, the lights in the room blinked. Then they went dark. Only the emergency lights now pulsed in red. The message. Suddenly, Zorvac's communicator beeped. He clicked it on. A message appeared, written in simple words. If you want to stop me, you'll need more than technology. Zorvac's eyes widened. He's taunting me. Sir, we've checked the code. It's coming from inside the ship. Zorvac growled, his voice cold and harsh. Get him now. The hunt begins. Zorvac gave the order. Lock down the entire ship. Every door, every hallway was sealed. The crew was spread out in search of Eli. But when they reached Eli's room, it was empty. The glass door was shattered. The human had escaped. But how? A new kind of game. As Zorvac stood in the hallway, staring at the empty room, his mind raced. This wasn't just a human escape. This was something far more dangerous. Eli wasn't running. Eli wasn't fleeing. He was playing. And he was winning. The others. The ship was silent now, too silent. No hum of the engines, no chatter from the crew. Zorvac stood at the heart of the control room, his skin glowing faintly under the dim emergency lights. The entire crew was on high alert. The human Eli had escaped, but where, how, and more importantly, why had he disappeared without a trace? The unease grows. I don't understand, Commander, one of Zorvac's officers said nervously. How did he get past the security system? Zorvac didn't answer right away. His mind raced, running over the events of the past few days. Eli had been too calm, too methodical. It was as if the human had planned everything from the moment he was brought aboard. We're missing something, Zorvac muttered under his breath. The officer glanced at the view screen, his voice trembling. But he's gone. We've sealed every exit. He can't escape. He's not escaping, Zorvac snapped. He's staying right here. The ship's sensors pinged a signal. Something strange was coming from the lower levels, a transmission. The officer quickly activated the system to trace the signal, but as the screen flickered, a new message appeared. You still don't understand, do you? I've been here the whole time. Zorvac's eyes widened. The secrets of the ship. The transmission wasn't coming from Eli's location. It wasn't even coming from a room. It was emanating from the ship's systems. Zorvac's fingers hovered over the controls. Track that signal. Where it coming from? But the system refused to comply. Every time they tried to trace it, the signal just disappeared. Something was deeply wrong. Something was controlling the ship from the inside. The arrival of the others. Hours later, as Zorvak tried to regain control, the ship's sensors began to pick up more signals. Strange, unfamiliar ships were approaching the Vorak 7. Alien ships, sleek and black, their designs unlike anything the commander had seen before. "Report," Zorvak barked. An officer's voice crackled over the comms. "Sir, they're too close. We can't outrun them." Zorvak frowned. "They're here for the human, aren't they?" "I think they are," the officer replied. "But they're not stopping. They've locked onto us." The control room was filled with panic as the crew scrambled to take action. Zorvak clenched his fists, his gaze fixed on the flashing map. These ships, they weren't just alien pirates or random travelers. They were organized. The human wasn't just a pet. He was something far more important, and now they were coming for him. The first encounter. On the lower decks, a few crew members came face to face with the unexpected visitors. Black-clad figures, humanoid in shape but with cold, glowing eyes, stepped out of the shadows. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. With a single motion, they incapacitated the crew members. No violence, just precision. Back in the control room, Zorvak's eyes narrowed. "Who are they?" The answer came in a cold, mechanical voice that echoed through the ship's comm system. "We are the others, and we are here for the human." The unseen plan. The crew scrambled to respond, but Zorvak felt something in the pit of his stomach. It wasn't just an invasion. This was something far deeper. The others weren't here to take over the ship. They were here to take Eli, but for what purpose? Eli's revelation. In the meantime, Eli wasn't hiding. He wasn't running either. The ship's corridors felt different now, alive with possibilities. He had been waiting for this moment. The others had arrived, and they were looking for him. As he moved through the quiet halls, he thought about the first time he had been captured by Zorvak's crew. How the commander had believed he was just some weak, docile creature. They had underestimated him. Eli wasn't just a human. He was a scout, part of an ancient program designed to find other intelligent species and bring them together. And the others, they weren't strangers. They were his real kind, the ones who had been searching for him since he first arrived. The meeting. Eli entered the ship's central command room just as the others made their way to the heart of the ship. The door slid open. One of the figures from the others stepped forward, a tall alien with blue skin and black markings. He had no weapons, only a calm demeanor. "You've come for me," Eli said, his voice low but steady. The alien nodded. "We've come for you, but we also came for them." "You came for Zorvak and his kind?" Eli asked, crossing his arms. "You don't need them, they don't matter." "They matter because they think they control the galaxy," the alien replied. "But they've forgotten one thing, humans. We've been searching for you for millennia, for what you're capable of." Eli smiled. "I never asked for this, I'm just trying to survive." The alien raised an eyebrow. "You will survive, but what we need from you is something more than survival. We need you to lead." The choice. Eli took a step back, his mind racing. These were the others, the beings who knew of his origins, the beings who could help him unlock his true potential. Zorvak and his crew had brought him here thinking they could control him, but they had only unleashed a force they didn't understand. The others weren't enemies. They were allies. They wanted Eli to lead, to guide them in reshaping the galaxy. But the choice was his. The uprising. The silence in the central command room was suffocating. Eli stood across from the others, his mind racing as the reality of his situation settled in. He had a choice that could change everything. The others weren't here to harm him. They were here to help him, to awaken the power within him that Zorvak and his crew couldn't even comprehend. A dangerous opportunity. The blue-skinned alien who had stepped forward was now watching Eli with intense, almost calculating eyes. "This ship is a tool, not a home. You could use it to reshape the galaxy, Eli. Zorvak and his crew are nothing but pawns. They think they have control, but they're about to learn that the true power lies in your hands." Eli took a deep breath. He had always known there was something more to him, something deep inside. But the thought of leading an uprising, of taking down Zorvak and his forces, filled him with unease. "What happens if I don't help you?" Eli asked. The alien's eyes darkened. "Then you will become like them, like Zorvak, a pawn in a much larger game, the game of survival." Eli clenched his fists. He had seen the way Zorvak and his crew treated him like an object, something to be controlled. The truth was, the idea of following their orders made him sick. "I've never wanted to be anyone's pet," Eli muttered, mostly to himself. The alien smiled slightly. "Then we are in agreement. Zorvak has underestimated you, but we have no time to waste. The others in this ship will need to choose a side, your side or Zorvak." The hidden agenda. As the others continued to speak with Eli, Zorvak's crew grew restless. The ship had been on lockdown for hours, and the alien commander could feel something in the air. Something was off. His technicians couldn't find Eli anywhere. Not in his room, not in the vents. It was as if he had vanished. "No, no," Zorvak muttered under his breath. "I'll find him. He's somewhere on this ship." His mind kept returning to the strange transmission Eli had sent earlier, the cryptic message that had taunted him. "I've been here the whole time." Suddenly, a new alarm went off in the control room, louder than any before. "Sir, unauthorized ships are approaching," one of the officers called out. "They're too close for us to outrun them." Zorvak's eyes narrowed as the screen blinked to life. The dark ships were approaching. There was no mistaking it. These were the ships of the others, and they had come for the human. The uprising begins. Eli's mind was made up. He stepped toward the others who had been waiting patiently, ready to begin their plan. He turned to face them. "I'm ready, let's do this." The blue-skinned alien gave a nod of approval. Then the revolution begins. The doors to the command room suddenly slid open. A group of Zorvak's elite soldiers, heavily armed, rushed in. They were here to find Eli to stop this rebellion before it could even begin. But it was too late. Eli stepped forward, his eyes filled with an unwavering calmness. "No one is stopping us." Before the soldiers could react, the walls of the command room shook violently. Something was happening on the ship. The others had begun. They were taking control. The ship awakens. As the chaos erupted within the command room, the ship itself seemed to come alive. The once quiet corridors buzzed with energy. Every light flickered on, every door opened automatically. Systems that had been locked down began to operate once more. Zorvak watched from the control room as his world crumbled. His empire, built on power and control, was being dismantled in real time. The others had hacked into his systems and were taking over the ship piece by piece. "No," Zorvak roared. "I will not lose control." He slammed his fist onto the console, trying to regain command, but the system refused to obey. The human had done this. Eli had somehow manipulated the ship's code, making it turn against its creators. From the darkened hallway, a single message echoed through the ship's loudspeakers. "The game has changed. The time for control is over." Zorvak froze. That voice, it was Eli's, and it sent a chill through his spine. The choice of the crew. With the ship now under the control of the others, it was time for the crew to make a choice. Follow Zorvak's tyrannical rule or join Eli and the uprising. The crew members who had once served Zorvak hesitated, confusion written across their faces. Many had followed the commander out of fear, not loyalty. Now they had a chance to choose freedom. "You have a choice," the voice echoed again. "Join me, help me reshape the galaxy, or stay with him. The choice is yours." Some of the crew had already started to move toward Eli. They were done following orders. They were done with fear. The final stand. Zorvak, now desperate, rushed to the heart of the ship. He had one final chance to reclaim control, to stop Eli and the others from destroying everything he had worked for. But as he entered the central control room, he saw Eli standing there. The human was no longer a prisoner. He was a leader. And the others, the true power behind this revolution, stood by his side. "You can't win this," Zorvak sneered, drawing his weapon. Eli didn't flinch. He was calm, composed. "I don't need to win. This isn't a battle. This is freedom." The others, now fully supporting Eli, took their positions. The battle between Zorvak and the crew loyal to him was inevitable, but it was not a battle of strength. It was a battle of ideals. And Eli was ready to see it through to the end. The fall of Zorvak. The final moments of Zorvak's reign were drawing near, and the battle for control of the Vorax 7 ship had never been more intense. Zorvak stood in the heart of the ship, his weapon in hand, sweat beading on his forehead. His eyes locked onto Eli, who stood calmly in the center of the control room. The crew loyal to Zorvak, now divided, stood between them. On one side, the rebels, those who had chosen to follow Eli's call for freedom, formed a new alliance. On the other, Zorvak's remaining forces stood ready to fight to the bitter end. The showdown begins. Zorvak raised his weapon, the cold steel gleaming in the low emergency lights. "You have no idea what you've done, human," he spat, his voice thick with rage. "You think you can control this ship, this galaxy? You are nothing but an insignificant creature." Eli didn't flinch, his gaze never wavered. "I am not the one who's been controlling anyone. I've been surviving just like you. The difference is I see the bigger picture." Zorvak's eyes narrowed. "You're weak, you've always been weak, and now you've made the biggest mistake of your life." The ship seemed to shudder as Zorvak prepared to fire, but just as his finger brushed the trigger, something strange happened. The lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the walls. It wasn't the ship's systems malfunctioning, it was something else. Eli raised his hand, and suddenly the room filled with a powerful energy. The control room shifted, as if responding to his command. "What are you doing?" Zorvak shouted, taking a step back in fear. Eli smiled softly, his voice calm. "This is the ship responding to me. I've taken control. Not you, not the others. This is my rebellion, and it's not just for freedom, it's for something greater." The unexpected power. The walls trembled as the energy within the ship grew. Zorvak's weapon flickered out of his hand, dropping to the floor with a loud clang. He staggered back, his heart pounding in his chest. "No, this isn't possible. You're just a human." Eli's eyes were filled with a strange, almost ethereal glow. "You underestimated us. You thought we were weak, small, incapable of understanding, but we've always had the power. We were just waiting for the right moment." The crew members who had once been loyal to Zorvak now looked to Eli, unsure, afraid, but also curious. Something had shifted in the atmosphere. The balance of power was changing right before their eyes. The ship was no longer just a machine. It was an extension of Eli's will, an instrument of his newfound strength. Zorvak, seeing his grip on the ship slipping away, turned to face his remaining forces. "Don't just stand there," he barked. "Stop him, he's controlling the ship." But the crew hesitated. There was uncertainty in their eyes. Many of them had already seen the cruelty of Zorvak's rule. The rebellion was no longer just about a fight for survival. It was a fight for a new future, a future free from oppression. The decision. One by one, the soldiers who had once been loyal to Zorvak began to lower their weapons. They looked at each other, then at Eli, and a silent understanding passed between them. They weren't following Zorvak anymore. They were following the one who had shown them what true freedom meant. Zorvak's face contorted in fury. "Traitors, all of you!" His voice cracked with desperation as he turned toward the door, his last hope now the control room's escape. But the door wouldn't open. The ship's systems, Eli's systems, had locked him inside. "You think you can lock me in?" Zorvak shouted, attempting to pry open the door with all his strength. "You think you can stop me?" Eli stepped forward, his voice clear and powerful. "You've had your time, Zorvak. Your reign of terror ends here." For the first time in years, Zorvak felt the grip of true fear. His empire was crumbling. His soldiers were no longer loyal. And the ship, the very ship he had used to dominate and control, was now turning against him. The collapse of an empire. With a final, decisive command, Eli activated the main engines. The ship's core, once under Zorvak's direct control, now powered down. The hum of the engines slowed to a gentle whir, signaling the end of the Vorak 7's era of tyranny. Zorvak collapsed to his knees, his breath ragged. "No, I am the commander, I am the leader, you are nothing." Eli stood tall, his gaze unwavering. "No, Zorvak, I was nothing, until I realized the truth. You've been playing a game, but the game's over, you lost." With a sharp motion, Eli deactivated the power core that had kept Zorvak's forces in line. The ship, once a symbol of domination, was now free. Zorvak was no longer its master. The rise of a new order. As Zorvak was escorted away by the rebel forces, Eli turned to face the remaining crew members, who were now looking at him with a mix of admiration and awe. "We've done it," one of the officers whispered. Eli nodded, but his mind was already on what came next. The uprising had succeeded, but this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were many more systems like Zorvak's. It was time to rebuild, time to unite those who had been oppressed and forgotten. The human, once a pet in the eyes of the invaders, had become their leader. And as Eli looked out the window of the command room, he knew that the true battle had only just begun. The future awaits. Eli turned to the blue-skinned alien leader. We have much to do. The galaxy is vast, and there are many more like Zorvak. We must reach out to those who are still suffering. The alien leader nodded. You are ready now, Eli. The galaxy is waiting for you. Eli smiled, his eyes filled with determination. We're not just going to survive anymore, we're going to thrive together. A new dawn. The Vorax 7, once a tool of tyranny, now drifted silently in the vastness of space, its lights flickering with a strange new energy. The oppressive hum of the engines had been replaced by a more harmonious tone, as though the ship itself was breathing in time with its newfound freedom. Eli stood at the ship's command center, his eyes scanning the endless expanse of stars. He had done it. Zorvak had fallen and the rebellion was victorious, but the victory felt hollow. The galaxy was vast, and this was only the beginning of a far larger struggle. The crew, now loyal to him, bustled behind him. The ship's former guards, the ones who had once been the heart of Zorvak's force, now worked with the others, helping to repair the systems and establish new protocols. There was a palpable sense of hope in the air, but it was tempered with uncertainty. The burden of leadership. Eli had never asked to be a leader. He had been a prisoner, a mere tool in Zorvak's game. Yet now he stood at the helm of something far greater than himself, a movement that had the potential to shake the very foundations of the galaxy. A voice behind him interrupted his thoughts. Commander, the blue-skinned alien leader who had once been a part of the others, spoke softly. We've received messages from several systems. They're asking what happens now. They want to know if we'll lead them. Eli turned to face him. They want to know if we'll lead them, he repeated, his voice low but firm. They don't need leaders, they need allies. We need to rebuild, not conquer. The alien nodded. But many of them see you as their only hope. You've given them the courage to believe in something bigger. Eli sighed. I didn't do this for power. I did this because I couldn't stand to see people like me treated as pets. But leading a revolution means more than just freedom. It means responsibility. He paused, looking out into the stars again. I'm not ready for this. I don't know if I ever will be. The first challenge. The message came through late at night, interrupting the quiet stillness of the ship's new command center. A sharp, urgent tone buzzed across the room. Eli, the voice crackled through the comms. It was one of the former rebels, now stationed as a liaison officer. We've received word of an uprising in the Sciron system. A faction has seized control of a military station. They're asking for support. Eli stood, his heart pounding. A military station? How many are involved? Thousands, Commander, and they're demanding either resources or the surrender of their leaders. They've threatened to start an interstellar conflict if their terms aren't met. Eli frowned. The rebellion was fragile. He had just united a crew and freed the ship from Zorvak's rule, and now a new conflict was brewing in another part of the galaxy. I'll handle it, Eli said, voice resolute. Prepare the ship, we're heading to Sciron. The Sciron system. The journey to Sciron took only hours, but in that short time, Eli's mind had raced through 1,000 possibilities. He had no experience in military matters, no formal training in diplomacy. Yet somehow the burden of leadership had been thrust upon him. As the Vorax 7 entered the Sciron system, Eli was struck by the beauty of the planets below. It was a quiet system, surrounded by asteroid belts and deep nebulae. But even the peaceful stars couldn't mask the tension that seemed to hang in the air. The military station was massive, a sprawling fortress floating just above the surface of the Sciron moon. It was a symbol of power, and now it was a symbol of rebellion. Eli addressed the crew in the command center. We'll approach the station slowly. Don't make any sudden moves. I'm going in alone to speak with their leader. The alien leader stepped forward, his voice tinged with concern. Are you sure, Eli? The situation is tense. They may not respond well to a human. Eli nodded. I'm sure. We don't want to escalate this. I'll go in first. If they want peace, they'll listen. If not, we'll handle it. Negotiations and dangers. Eli docked at the station, his boots tapping lightly against the metal floor as he walked down the long, dimly lit hallway. His heart raced with every step, but his expression remained steady. The leader of the Sciron uprising was a tall, imposing figure, an alien who called himself Tarkin, leader of the Sciron military faction. His eyes were sharp, his face hard. He looked Eli up and down with little expression, his gaze cold and calculating. You came alone? Tarkin asked, his voice low. Eli nodded. I came to talk. We don't want conflict. We want peace. Tarkin studied him for a long moment before stepping aside, gesturing for Eli to enter. Then let's talk. But understand this, peace costs something. If you want our allegiance, you will need to prove you are more than just a symbol of change. You will need to show us your strength. Eli's brow furrowed. Strength isn't about weapons, it's about resolve. And unity, we don't need your military might to bring peace. We need cooperation. Tarkin laughed, a deep, cynical sound. You're not in charge here. This station is mine, and we'll decide what happens next. If you want us to join your rebellion, you must give us what we need. Eli took a deep breath, preparing for what he knew would be a delicate negotiation. What is it you need? Tarkin leaned in closer, his gaze piercing. Resources, weapons, and something more, a demonstration of your power. Prove that you can control the galaxy and we'll follow you. The test of power. Eli's heart skipped a beat. It was a test. Tarkin wasn't just looking for support. He was testing whether Eli had the ability to lead a galaxy. And the truth was, Eli wasn't sure if he could. He wasn't sure he even wanted to. But he couldn't back down now. The rebellion was fragile, and every system that joined them would be a crucial part of their strength. Eli exhaled, his decision made. I can show you our strength, but it's not about domination. It's about unity. If we fight for each other, we will never lose. Tarkin's lips curled into a smirk. We'll see if you can deliver on that promise. The power of unity. As Eli returned to the Vorax 7, he knew that the battle for the galaxy had only just begun. His leadership would be tested time and time again. There would be more uprisings, more dangers, and more temptations to take control with force. But in the end, Eli understood one thing above all. True strength lay in unity, in the ability to bring people together to fight for a future where no one would ever be a pet again.